Hey there. I'm going to move this just slightly. I might need to back up just a little bit. So I'm going to get my whole head in there. How are you, everybody? Welcome to the tall and the short of it. And my ears are sounding all muffled. I'm going to bring Betsy on here with us. So we'll see how we get her in here. Hello. My lighting is terrible. Let's do this. Nope, that's even worse. All right, we'll just have to deal with that today. If I move this way, nope. There we go.
I'll say I couldn't.
Let me move this way. I feel like I'm not centered. Okay, that's better.
We're so professional today.
Are we?
As usual.
As usual, totally. Oh, how is everybody today out there in Facebook land? We had an interesting morning.
Hi, guys.
Didn't we? Interesting morning.
Yes, we did.
It was the
first week of school.
Yes, it was the first week of school. And lo and behold, we had a water main break. So there was no school today, for us anyway.
Wow. I saw someone that works with us just posted, like, they had what they did today. They went and had fun, but her son called it a snow day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was because of water that was not snow, but still water.
True.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. Well, today we are talking about teaching rules and procedures. Since the beginning of the school year, that's what many teachers are doing right now. First and foremost.
I would hope all. I would hope all. I mean, this is probably one of the times we could get away with saying all.
Yeah, probably.
And let's put it this way. If they're not, I bet their year's off to a rough start.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yes. So we wanted to just kind of give perspective on, some things to remember as you're teaching your rules and procedures in your classrooms and how that can apply. Hey, Kathy Boyer.
Hey, Kathy. Kathy, you never called me back.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble.
Kathy never called me back.
Kathy's in trouble. Not with me. So while you're teaching and just like thinking about what our kids with disabilities might struggle with and what things could help them internalize those rules and procedures quicker. So we're going to start out with rules. So Betsy, I don't know if do you want to start on this one? Okay.
Sure. So I'm going to cough. My allergies decided to go nuts when I got home. Okay. First of all, it's important to, I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Anyway, so it's important to use simple language when creating when writing out your goals. And I told Jenny, we often, I think it's something I was taught when I was in college. You try to make it positive, like instead of saying no running, put use walking feet. Well, sometimes you need to say no running. So
hey,
it's
LJ Rowe, she's watching. Laura Jean.
It's important to just talk about that, and maybe you do say use walking feet. Now I'm guessing this is going to be at the lower levels.
Well, I don't know. I have been. I don't know. Maybe a high school.
Maybe you do say use walking feet. Well, I'm just saying. To use walking feet. That might not be the. I don't know. They might listen. I don't know. But it's talking about what does that mean when I say for you to use your walking feet, and talking about that and say, yes, I mean no running. And so, or like use your listening ears. What does that mean? It means you're not talking when
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking. So it is important for some of our kids to hear that, being that no piece of it or that not piece of it, because they need it to be explicitly
Mm-hmm.
said that way. Um, I no, sorry, I was trying to think when I said this, but I mean, I had a student last year tell me that they didn't think they were in trouble because I didn't yell at them. And I'm not a yeller typically in my classroom. And I thought, so I had to start saying explicitly, like,
Yeah.
I'm mad. I may not be
Uh-huh.
yelling, but I'm mad, or, you're in trouble. They need that to be said. So, and then giving those examples and non-examples, and role playing,
Exactly. Yeah, and you can
and
make that fun.
then,
Like if you say, okay, if we're gonna
yeah,
role play
yeah,
using walking feet, somebody show me how we don't use walking feet. And then they'll like stomp like an elephant, or they
right,
might
right,
run, or they. So you can make it fun. You don't have to make it like be this horrible, that
right.
you want them, that each kid in that room can see what using walking feet means.
And this isn't necessarily something we are
Right.
doing once. This is going to happen a
Lots
lot.
of
Um,
pre-correction right before
and
you
then,
leave the room.
yes, yes. Um, well, and then when you are
Mhm.
praising the good behavior, maybe saying, I love the walking feet
Mhm.
from, so and so, or, those kinds of things, being very specific
Yeah.
with your praise. Um, One other thing that I thought about was some of our students, especially ones that might fall on the spectrum, may not always understand that the classroom rules that are up on the wall also
Oh, hi,
apply to
Callaway.
them. So, yeah. Uh, really?
I'm surprised mine isn't behind me right
The tall and the
now.
short
Yeah.
of it and the tail. There we go. You don't need to be in here. So, sorry, I moved my drink, so if he wants, maybe he can just set on me or something. But anyways, okay, so maybe you need to make a smaller, make it look like you're one that's up on the wall, but it's smaller, create it so that it can be in the corner of their desk. Or maybe you can just print it out on a sheet and it stays in their desk
Right.
or in a certain folder if they don't need it. But sometimes they need to be told, these are your rules
Mm-hmm.
also. And then another way to work with that would be a social story, that classroom rules also apply to you because you
Mm-hmm.
are a part of the classroom.
Because we have to
So,
remember that kids on the spectrum are very egocentric. And they often, things that are globally said, well, and it kind of works both ways. You might say something to the whole class, and then, and maybe you were angry because the class is being too loud or something. Like you're like, you guys are being too loud and it's upsetting. You stop it, or you guys are going to lose recess. You might say that to everybody, and they think it was just directed
mm-hmm,
at them versus
mm,
so it can go both ways depending
yeah,
on how that kid tunes in. But a lot of times
mm-hmm,
you'll say something to the whole class and they're like, what? Because they weren't not tuned in. That can happen with ADHD too.
mm-hmm,
So,
yes.
hey, Melinda Julius is
Um,
watching. Oh,
do you want
I can,
me to keep
sure, I
going, or
can
do you
talk
want to talk
about
about?
that. The next thing. So this is a big one, especially as you get into the older grades. But it even happens in the younger grades with specials. So
Mm-hmm, yes.
different teachers have different rules, or they might forget if things are too different. Huh?
Okay.
What? Can you not hear me? Oh, I
Sorry,
froze.
you froze. So
Oh, okay.
I can now.
Sorry.
You
Maybe we just had a bad
you
connection there
froze.
for a second. I know it's been like raining all around us off and on, but
Mm,
um, so they might have, these 3 or 4 rules in your class, and then they go to music class, and now the teacher shows them another list of rules for how to behave in music. And then the PE teacher has another list of rules of how to behave in the gym. So behavior is very environmental specific, because you're not going to have don't run on the bleachers in your classroom. You're not going to have, I mean, there'll be different things, hold your instrument still until I say, or,
Right.
So they're going to have all these different people
Right.
throwing different rules at them depending on how many classes. And sometimes that can be confusing. So sometimes having a list or a way for them to differentiate that, or having the classroom teacher be able to talk with them when they come back from those about, hey, what was it like in music? What were the rules? Being able to reinforce that can sometimes help them generalize.
Yeah. What was the same as
Mm-hmm.
mine? What was different? Well, and I was also just going to say, because you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about the older grades and then elementary, um, I think because elementary, our students typically go to like each special once a week. It's going to take longer for them to remember to remember those
Absolutely.
rules. So, as a or classroom teacher, I would try to see it. Do you have a copy of those so that you can,
Mm-hmm.
before you go, you can talk about them and stuff, because you had talked about at the upper
Mm-hmm.
grades, middle school, high school, they're
Right.
going daily for the most part, or every other day, depending if you have block schedule or not. Um, and so they're going to catch
Yeah.
on maybe a little
Yes,
quicker,
that's good. Yeah,
hopefully.
that's definitely something. But kids know how to differentiate environments. They really do most of the time, because you'll see those kids that all behave one way in one scenario and another way in another scenario. So they can do it. It's just sometimes we just need to help them with the memory piece of it right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you want to talk about the next one?
Well,
Yeah.
sure, because it's so fun. Well, and there's something, because we are talking about rules and procedures, and with the rules piece of it, the kids need to know there are consequences if you
Mm-hmm.
break those rules, and so you need to talk about what those consequences might look like, how they may change, because chances are there's not going to be a consequence for not following your rules during the first
Mm-hmm.
week, or 2 or 3, right from because they're learning them. And talking about, like, okay, you get a little bit of a grace period, you might get so many
Mm-hmm.
warnings, that kind of a thing. And then also, most teachers have a classroom management plan, whether it be
Some people have a color system,
sticks
sticker
and,
charts.
yeah, collars.
I don't know. Does anybody still write
Yes.
people's names on the board?
we,
I don't know. I hope not.
I hope not. um like my class, they earn dojo
Mm-hmm.
dollars. Um, and so I guess the consequence would be not earning a dojo
Mm-hmm.
dollar. I don't usually take them, at least not this early in the year. So it's important to remember that not all consequences will work for
Mm-hmm.
your whole class. So what did you put in here? A punishment is in the eye of the
Exactly.
beholder. We were talking about how sometimes you might take recess away. Well, I said for me this week, I would have gladly had someone take my recess away because it was hot and I didn't enjoy
And
setting
I
out on
was
the
exactly the
playground doing
opposite
recess
when I was
duty
in
because
school, where I found out my third grade teacher said if we chew gum in class, so we can't go to recess. And it was snowy and cold, and I didn't want to go out to recess. So I brought gum every day that week.
yeah. Or like, oh, you're going to eat lunch with me today instead of, your friends. Well, I actually use that. Well, my kids now, we all eat together, but I would often use that
Mm-hmm.
as a
Lunch with the teacher can
reward.
be a reward for
And
some
I think,
kids.
yeah. And I think a lot of times in younger grades, it is seen as that. And maybe, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, middle school. I was actually, when you said that, I was thinking about like when we
Mm-hmm.
taught middle school. I was kind of thinking of what teachers the kids might not want that,
Yeah.
might not like that, and which ones they
Well,
might.
another one's like
So,
suspension. Some kids want to be suspended. It's not a punishment for
yeah,
them. So you have to really
yeah,
know
yeah.
what will decrease the behavior and not that's a whole nother life.
Hmm. Right. And so you might need to either think about changing your classroom management plan, because this isn't just specific to students who have an IEP, who have a disability. This is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kids that, that what you had done the year before
Right.
may not work for this year. So you either might need to develop a specific plan for, this particular child, or maybe you need to rethink your whole plan, your whole classroom management plan. As a special ed teacher, if I have to write a behavior plan for a student that's out in a gen ed class, I go in and ask first, what's your classroom management plan? What are you doing? I try to use that and make tweaks to it so it's easier and something that, so the child still feels a part of the class. And some of you may be sitting here going, well, how am I supposed to know what's rewarding and what isn't? And I will tell you, over time, you will start to learn and figure that out. But there are still students out there that, in your class that you're going to say, I still don't know. I mean, Jenny can tell you, I have like observed. I mean, this kid has been in my class, or I've gone and observed and even done an FBA, and I'm just like, I don't know what's reinforcing. So there is something called a forced choice reinforcement survey. If you Google that, we could actually, I can put a link down. I can put it in the comments. But if you Google that, it will pop up, and it's the survey is 3. And the last page is like the
score sheet,
things up. And so it kind of shows. It asks them. There's multiple questions. There's a lot, like maybe 40. And some kids can do it on their own. Like I typically would read it to my kids. But sorry, I'm Googling
I said it
just right
forces,
now.
It forces them to choose between two different rewards, right?
Right. But what I'm looking at is I'm getting to, so there's maybe 5 different, I Googled it and it was the very first thing, the one that I want is the very first thing. It's on pbis.org. But what you're looking at is you can find if they like adult approval, competitive approval, peer approval, independent rewards, or consumable rewards. And now I will warn you, can get this. There are 40 questions. You could literally, I've had it done before where they come out like 8. Adult approval is like 7. Competitive approval is 8. Peer approval is 6. And they're all, usually there's like a 1 or 2 that really stand out. And if they don't, then I'm sorry. That's rough. It is hard. But for the most part, I'm going to tell you right now, those are the kids that when it comes like that, they're going to have a behavior plan. So it's,
and if nothing else, just, ask them. If you ask a kid what they want to work for, they'll usually tell you.
Yeah. And I'll try to find it. There is even a pre-K one of these, which I think has pictures. I have it somewhere. I will try to find it, or I'll try to Google and find it, because sometimes that's nice for kids who can't verbalize. It wouldn't have to just be for younger kids if you needed it to be, if you needed more visuals. But so that is, I use that a lot, the forced choice reinforcement survey.
I did too. All right, well, we're going to move on to procedures now. And so when we teach procedures in class, what are procedures? These are how we do things in the class, how we turn in homework, how we do writing workshop, how we have reading groups, how we do calendar time, the how of every single activity we do throughout the day. How do centers work? How do we line up? That's a procedure. So how do we walk in the hallway? And there's a lot of those to teach. The very first thing you need to know is you have to front load your year with pretty much tons of practice and modeling of these procedures. Because if you don't explicitly teach the procedures, like I wouldn't even assume that an 8th grader or 9th grader, oh, you've been in school for this, oh, you know no, you don't. No, they don't. I'm telling you.
No, because this is the first time they've been in your class.
So make sure.
And trust me, they are not all created equal.
Even when, I had high school kids or upper junior high, I always taught them, in the procedure in here for this is, and this is how we do it. You turn in papers to this basket on my desk. You do, whatever it is. We would look at it, we would talk about it, we would model it. I would say, all right, somebody take a paper and show me how you turn in your homework. And they would do it. And I would say, yay, good job. you know. But I'm telling you, there's always going to be that kid in April that still asks. And then you're going to be like,
well, and I had said this is something you have to
right.
continually do because
Yes.
you're going to get new kids.
Absolutely.
And, you know, or you don't do the same thing every day. You know, maybe it's something you don't even
Right.
do week to week, and you're
Right.
going to
If you
have
only take the spelling
to
test on
revisit
Fridays,
those.
then you're only getting, you know. So I always try to remember
Yeah.
Robert Marzano. He's a big education best practice researcher guy. He has a rule called the 4-14-40 rule. And it deals with vocabulary, and it also deals with just learning anything. Okay. So a high or above average learner, it's going to take 4 times for them to do a procedure or learn a word, whatever, before they're going to be able to generalize it and get that. So that's an above average kid. All right. A average student, 14 times. So they're going to have to do a procedure 14 times. And then our struggling learners, 40 times. So, you know, I tried to say it 100 different ways, you know, all the different ways you possibly can, and different words if you can, you know, especially for those language kiddos that really struggle to understand what words mean. Hi, Carrie Stanley and Marcia. So making sure that we practice and model over and over and over again, repeat. And you're going to feel like that's all you're doing for like the first month of school, but it's worth it. It like makes things go smoother the rest of the year. And that way, when you do have that move in February, you can say, hey, can you show so-and-so the procedure for this? And they'll be able to help each other. So that's a nice thing.
And I think that's just a good thing too, is to start teaching kids to kind of, if you're not sure, wait and watch.
Yes.
You'll know. Now, it also is sometimes good to teach them to wait and watch, but
don't watch him, watch her. Yes.
Yes, you know, I'm just saying, it brings.
Hey, it's reality in a classroom, right? There's Jake. There she is.
It is, yeah.
Hey, Jake. I knew she'd
Hey,
be
Jake.
Here. So, practicing and modeling, front load your year with procedures. You want to do visual cues?
Sorry, I'm laughing at this too because Jenny thought I had one thing on my lanyard and I did not. Visual cues are really good for our language, like we've said again, our language impaired or our intellectual disabilities, our kids with language impairments. And so visual cues or picture schedules. I did have pictures on my lanyard. Most teachers do have to wear lanyards. Now, they were visual, they were pictures, but they weren't for, they were more for rules. Let's put it that way.
Okay,
and yeah. And I had I had happy, sad, mad. I had those on there to show my, to let them know how I was feeling. However, but, you know, maybe, you know, you're seeing what procedure your students are struggling with the most. So maybe you have a visual cue with that, or maybe you have a visual cue for each of your, not each of your procedures, because good golly, can't hold that. You look like Mr. T after a while with your lanyard, but, you know, maybe it's a visual cue to be like, this is, you know, we're lining up or we're walking quietly down the hallway.
Some teachers even use like
those
music
kinds of things.
or a song of some sort, like a cleanup song for the toys, or, you know.
Well, I use Alexa that signals when it's time to clean up in my room. That's our cue. My warning is the kids hearing me tell Alexa to set a 5-minute timer. That's our cue, like our warning, and then they hear and they've learned and they remember. So day 1, day 2, my kiddos that were in my room last year remembered that they would hear it and say, "Oh, time to clean." You know, they knew. So, and then even. Okay, sorry, I was looking at something. Picture schedules, again, if it's something they're struggling with, or if they're going to a certain area, maybe you have the picture schedule right there to show we move over here, or this is what it looks like when we're doing carpet time. I have, again, more of like, I guess it is procedures. but on my carpet when we're in, you know, crisscross, listening ears, mouth closed. I can't. There's 5 of them. I can't remember them all. That's why they're there. hands in your lap, you know, that kind of thing. So I have those, and they're always up there. And I may go a day and 2 days and not point them out, but there's a day that I might need to say,
yep.
Are you, you know,
it's great for visual reminders.
Check them out. Are you doing these?
For sure.
So, and they're right underneath my TV, like, so right where they're looking. So, I kind of think maybe it's gotten to the point. It's one of those things that you don't notice because it's been there forever. So it's kind of, you know, that I still point it out. So those are good things to, you know, to have. And the one nice thing is chances are your procedures are very similar from year to year. So you get to reuse these things, and you're
you find what works.
You find what works every year.
And then you go with that. Don't break what's not broken, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the next piece about procedures is sometimes our kids, you might say, all right, you're going to go do this math center. You're going to go do this, you know, math center. You're going to do, you send them to the centers, and there's like a tub, and it might have some, you know, things in it or whatever for them to do with a little worksheet, or, you know, however it is. And you send the kids off to do that. Sometimes our kids don't understand, even when they get there, what they're supposed to do. Like, what do I do first? What do I do next? So a lot of times you have to break down the activities into smaller pieces. And we call that in special ed task analysis. But so you could probably tell most kids, hey, make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they could do it. But with our kids, they might not. I mean, they might try, but it's probably going to look sloppy, and they might get stuff all over the place. And, you know, but it's nice for you to be able to break some things down for them. So having little picture cues, or having, you know, first, put your name on your paper. Second, you know, having those with each center is really important. So if you don't, and the other piece too is you should always model your centers. Anything you expect them to do independently, should always model, because they might just go over there and just start playing with the blocks and and lining them up and building something or whatever, instead of doing the math activity you wanted them to do. So you always want to model those. And then also amount of time. So at the beginning of the school year, they might not be able to handle doing something for 30 minutes. Maybe they can only handle 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes. And then you can build that stamina to where today we're going to read for 15 minutes. And then the next time we're going to read for 17 minutes, you know, just getting them to build up to where you want them to be. Because we definitely need to make sure we're building stamina in our kids for different learning activities as much as possible. Okay. And then I'll let you say that last one, because you told me that one. Oh yeah. We kind of touched on it before.
Yeah, practice. You're going to have to, like, after breaks, you know, they leave for fall break, and we get a week. I mean, that's a week plus 2 days. I mean, 4 days. That's a long time. Well, I'm sorry. In my head, a week is Monday through Friday, because that's how school works. Just like the year is from
and
August
some
to
schools
August,
that
not January
have it for
to January.
weeks. Like at Christmas,
2 weeks, yeah. So when you come, when we have a 2-week spring break, so you're going to need to hit those again, and not just after fall break, but again after Christmas, and again after spring break. And you're going to think, oh my goodness, we are in April. Do I really need to? Yes, you do. Yes, they've been at home either having the time of their lives and didn't think about school once, or they've been at home miserable and thinking about school, but they're not thinking about, oh, how I miss our procedures. No. So, you know, yes, you are still going to be now. That being said, maybe in high school you shouldn't have to revisit them as much. Who am I to? Hey, who am I?
Hi, Janelle.
Who am I to judge? But, but anyways, yes, you're going to end the year going over procedures, just hopefully not as much as Which
Flusher.
Janelle was that? Okay, well, she can tell you. This is our preschool teacher. She'll tell you, yeah, she does. She does send me
Yes.
your teaching
She has new
procedures.
kids that come in all year long. So she pretty
Yes,
much every
she
month.
does. So constantly teaching procedures. So yes, just be ready. You're going to practice it all year, and you are going to end the year talking about
Right.
procedures. Just hopefully not as
For
much as
sure.
at the beginning.
But
So.
like I said, the biggest thing to remember is simple language is huge for our kids. Don't make the list of rules 20 rules long, because they're not going to be able to remember all that. Keep it simple and make sure that you practice and model and really help them with the examples and non-examples.
Well, and I think the visual piece just
that
in
helps all
general.
kids.
I
Whether
mean,
they're kids with disabilities or not.
that's
There's so many visual learners.
Mm-hmm.
If you like ask kids in your class, you have a lot of kids who are visual learners.
Well, let's real quick and say, back when we taught middle school, the entire 7th grade class within that school year, I gave them the like, what kind of learner are you? In that class I taught, and we had one auditory learner in the entire 7th grade. The rest were either visual learners or kinesthetic learners. One auditory learner. And just think about how much we need to do a live
learning preferences.
We're gonna have to do that sometime. Yeah, but like the entire 7th grade, which was a 80 to 100-ish, 80.
Yeah, it was closer to 100,
maybe.
But yeah, probably 90 some.
100. Okay. One auditory learner. And just think about how much of the information given to kids at all ages, all grade levels, regardless of whether they're kindergarten, regardless of whether they're in college, how is it given to them?
I'm definitely a visual. I'm a visual person through and through. Give me a map or a chart or a drawing or helps me understand for sure. All right. Well, that is all we have for you today on teaching rules and procedures. Next week, we will be here. And oh, crap, I already forgot what we were talking about. I know. I just posted the graphic today, too.
Oh, wait, that's July.
I posted the graphic. I can remember the week after that.
Professional as always.
What is up with us? I'm having to get there on my laptop, and of course my laptop's trying to be slow.
Well, I tried to get there, and
all right,
it tried to take me somewhere else.
Oh, right now it's showing us live. There we go.
New and challenging. Oh, new and challenging
behaviors. Yay! Because those always come up at the beginning of the year, don't they? And after breaks.
Yes.
And again.
Yes. This is something we're going to do
next week. We'll be talking about how to address new and challenging behaviors. And that's it for today. So thanks for being here at the tall and the short of it. And we'll see you next week.
Oh, guys, join the conversation. I can't forget my little
Marianne McCaslin just came on right as we're leaving. I'm sorry, Marianne. Watch us on replay.